Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of African Focus with myself, Kwame, Ghanaian broadcaster, writer, journalist, historian, podcast and entrepreneur. And this week's edition of African Focus, it's a Black History Month UK. So we thought that we'll give you a couple of videos in this one episode for Black History Month UK. So that's the theme for this week's topic, Black History Month, celebrating Black History Month in the UK. So before we get on to the topic, just to make you aware that if you like what you hear, please share to your friends, your family, social media networks, subscribe to Ghana African Focus on YouTube, hit the notification bell, and YouTube will notify you every time we upload a new podcast. Similarly, we're on Spotify. So again, look out for Ghana African Focus on Spotify. Hit the follow bell, meaning that Spotify will notify you every time we upload a new podcast to your feed. All right, so it doesn't cost anything to subscribe to both YouTube or Spotify. So please subscribe to Ghana African Focus on YouTube or Ghana African Focus on Spotify. All right, and if you want to donate to the show, we accept donations to help us continue to bring great content from Ghana, from the African continent. So you can donate as little as $3 a month. It could be just a one-off payment, or you can do it as a monthly installment. It's entirely up to yourself. Okay, and if you like, the podcast, you want to hear your feedback, see if on Spotify, or even if you are on the web browser and looking for Ghana African Focus, you can leave a comment as to what you think of the show. Again, also, if you're on Spotify, listen to Ghana African Focus on Spotify, you can make comments there. So please let us know what you think about the different topics that we bring for you. All right. So, and again, if you're interested in coming to Ghana to do business, you want to know about the Ghana card, you want to know about citizenship, you want to know how to start business in Ghana, we do offer a consulting session whereby we can make a package for you. We do have two packages or two sessions. One is a 4-hour consultancy for $30 an hour. And the other one is a half an hour briefing session, and that's for $20. So, depending on what your needs and wants are, will determine if you want a full 1-hour session or a half an hour consulting session. So I've got more than 10 years experience of doing business in Ghana. And so we do have a lot of information that can help you, in your sojourn to Ghana. So if you want to book your consultation with myself, I will leave you the email address at the footnotes to the show. Just drop me an email and we can book you in. All right, so let's get into the podcast, looking about Black History Month UK. So obviously, Black History Month UK emanated from Black History Month in America. So for those of you who don't know particulars on the continent, every February, African, as I like to put it, History Month is celebrated throughout the world in February and was started by the father of Black history in America, Carter G. Woodson, who wrote a famous book that I would implore that you all get and read, The Miseducation of the Negro. Because back then we were called Negro, so Carter G. Woodson wrote that book, The Miseducation of the Negro. I might leave it in the footnotes to the show, actually. And, he started what was called Negro History Week in America in 1926, simply for the fact that in American schools, the vast contribution the African people in America made, was not being taught in schools in America. So Carter G. Woodson initiated back then, in 1926, Negro History Week, which has become Black History Month, and in certain quarters, Black History Season. So not just a month, but for 3 months. In the UK, it came to shores of the UK in 1997, spearheaded by Akyaaba Addai-Sebo, who is a Ghanaian activist who fled the Wollons regime in the early to mid-80s. And he came to London and he was part of the Greater London Council. and he saw the experiences of Black people, particularly Black children, in the UK system, that he thought that he would also initiate Black History Month UK. And so, but before that, there were other Pan-African groups who were doing Black history sessions, but it was not a coordinated and unified kind of attempt. Yeah, what Akyaaba Addai-Sebo did was to make a uniform, and that's why in October 1987, Black History Month UK was born, and the reason why Akyaaba Addai-Sebo chose October is that he wanted it to our children to be taught history, and October was a good month because that's when they had been settled in school. They come after long summer holidays, and I'm in school, and October, being a good month to house Black History Month UK. So that's when Black History Month UK started in 1987 October, and in a couple of years' time will be the 40th anniversary of the founding of Black History Month in UK, and I'm sure that there'll be some special events to commemorate that fantastic milestone. But in this podcast, we're going to give you a couple of videos that you may not have seen or may not have heard, and definitely not may have heard, and definitely may not have known of. So the first video that I'm going to put down for you is that many people think actually Europe is a white country. So you look at the countries in Europe are actually white, i.e. UK, Germany, France, Spain, Portugal, etc. Not understanding that white skin, didn't come up in Europe until about 6,500 years ago. So before 6,500 years ago, most of Europe was black. In fact, all of Europe was black. And even to give you an example, in the UK, the first British person was not a white person; it was a black person called Cheddar Man. Again, I might leave you that in the front to a show. Cheddar Man was the first person to inhabit the UK. Believe that's from because Cheddar Man had a mother. We all come from our mother's womb. We don't come out of osmosis. So Cheddar Man came from his mother's womb. And this was about 10 to 15,000 years ago in the UK. There was no white people in the UK up until roughly about 5,000 years ago. So that tells you about Black people, African people, because Cheddar Man DNA links it back to Africa. So he may not have had a thick lips and a broad nose, but his features and his skin tone and his DNA all point to the African continent. And so many people are not aware of that. And secondly, many people don't understand that Europe has had many Black rulers. So, for example, in the UK, one of the earliest rulers in the UK, Britain, was an African called Septimus, who ruled the UK for 195 CE, so this is before Christ, or Common Era, to 211 CE. So he ruled the UK for about 14, 15 years, and is actually buried in York Minster. And there's other Black rulers who have ruled countries like Spain, France, Portugal, but you don't hear of them, because of this propaganda or this false narrative that Europe has been a white continent and that Black people have come to Europe in the recent years, when the opposite is true, is that Europe was a Black continent before the emergence of white skin in Europe. So I'll leave you that video so that you can understand the vast contribution that African people have played to the civilization of Europe. Now, the second video I'll play that I'll leave for you is of great African women, because oftentimes when we talk about great African women or when we talk about Black history to boot, generally speaking, it's always about the men. The great kings of Egypt, Mansa Musa of Mali, great kings like the pharaohs in Egypt, etc., etc. We don't know or are not told about the great African women who have shaped African history in antiquity. So we're talking about figures like, Queen Cleopatra, of Egypt. She was not white, she was actually mixed race, And then that's Cleopatra 7, but the original Cleopatra was Black African. Queen Hatshepsut of so-called Egypt, otherwise known as Kemet. That's what the land that you know as Egypt, that was what was called Kemet, Kemet, which means literally the land of the blacks. Not land of the Arabs, not land of the whites, but land of the blacks. So black people, African people, are the original people of Egypt, just like the original people all around the world. Yeah. And also you got great kings like the Queen of Sheba or Shaba, yeah, in Ethiopia, who King Solomon was, attracted to. That King Solomon married the Queen of Sheba, and they had a son called Menet the First, who also really, the ancient kingdom of Kush, that is called Ethiopia today. Yeah, in actual fact, his emperor or his majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie, is a natural descendant of the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon. Yeah. So there's other queens as well, like Queen Candace of Meroe, that's the president of Ethiopia. Yeah. Nanaya Asantewa of Asante in modern day Ghana. Yeah. Queen Amina of the Hausa land. Yeah. Queen Nzinga, right, of Luanda or modern day Angola. Queen Nehenda of Zimbabwe. Yeah. And other great queens that you don't know about. So I'll put that there so that you understand the immense contribution that African women have played in the annals of African history. And that dispels the often untold story of the greatness of the Black woman, because today, with all due respect, most of women want to emulate white women in terms of wearing this hideous wigs, the false eyelashes, the false nails, etc. Right? That's not you, Black woman. That's not you. And because you didn't know your history, right, you think that the white woman is the standard. Not overstanding that you, Black woman, you are the standard. Even the Pope of Rome, this is again, no Black history. All the popes of Rome, right, bow down and kneel to a Black Madonna. That's the original Madonna, not the pop star Madonna. I'm talking about the original Madonna. Yeah. I'll put a picture of Pope Francis and Pope Benedict kissing or praying in front of a Black Madonna. That's the Black Virgin Mary, the original Virgin Mary. Yeah, not the white Virgin Mary that you pray with or that you pray to. The original Black Madonna. Yeah. So it turns out Black women have played a massive role in history and African history as well. So I'll leave those two videos for you so that you can see for yourself the splendor and richness, tapestry of African history. And this is why we celebrate African History Month in the UK in October, or Black History, in February around the world, to make you understand and appreciate the vast contributions the African people have made towards civilization and culture that is often hidden, particularly in Muslim societies, and even Africa, where your curriculum is a Eurocentric or Arab curriculum, whereby this history is not taught to you. Yeah, that's why many Africans born on the continent view other Africans as foreigner and view the diaspora so-called as foreigner. Yeah, but you don't know that we're all from the same mother and family, and so this is a very reason why it's very important to teach Black history, because a lot of us don't know the entirety of Black history, and it's important that we begin to understand the entirety of Black history so that you know who you are. You are the original people of the planet. You are the mothers and fathers of civilization, and that's what we were brought into what is destined to be. We were here long before Judaism. We were here long before Islam. We were here long before Christianity. We were here long before Buddhism, Hinduism, and all these other man-made religions. Yeah, we were here long before any so-called religion came out. And so I'm going to keep it short and brief, but the two videos that I will put down for your information will tell you a lot about the richness and the vast contribution to civilization and culture that African people, particularly African women, have made to world history and culture. All right, so for myself, Kwame, and from all the crew here on African Focus, Thank you very much for listening. And we'll see you next week for some more healthcare because, yep, there's some serious news about sanctuary pad that our women wear that I got to bring to you next week, right? So we're going to have another health special looking about sanctuary pads, all right? So for myself, Kwame, and from all the crew here on Africa in Focus, thank you very much for listening. And we see you in the next edition of Ghana in Focus.